It's the 26th of August 2026. This is a brand new edition of Newsfirst's Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Bringing you tonight's bulletin for the Newsfirst team, I am Jaimal Ratnayaka.
And I am Viara Birikon. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Over 400 missing, including tourists, after landslide triggers deadly deluge along the Nepal-Tibet border. Muslims worldwide mark Milad-un-Nabi with devotion. National celebration held under President's patronage. 22nd Constitutional Amendment aimed solely at delivering justice to the people. President reaffirms.
මාහෝ මාගේ ආණ්ඩු ගන්න ලබන කිසිදු තීන්දුවක් කිසිදු පියවරක් මේ රටේ මහජනයාට අගතියක් ගෙනත් දෙන කුඩා හෝ සිදුවීමක් සිදු නොවන බවට මා වග බලා ගන්නවා.
Sri Lanka's economy remains resilient. No risk of returning to bankruptcy. Central Bank Governor stresses. Why is the Bar Association silent on alleged insults against the judiciary veiled behind parliamentary privileges? Lawyers of the People's Mandate question.
සත්‍ය නොදැක ඒ අසත්‍ය කියන්න මෝඩේ. හැබැයි සත්‍ය දැක දැක ඒ අසත්‍ය කියන්න දරුණු අපරාධකාරී. මෙන්න මේ ගණයට වැටලා තියෙනවා.
El Nino conditions impact over 84,000 people across 7 districts. Drought drains reservoirs as rains replenish others. We start off tonight's bulletin with some devastating news from overseas, as at least 95 people have been killed and nearly 400 others are unaccounted for after a flash flood and mudslide along the Nepal-Tibet border washed away villages and damaged roads and infrastructure.
For an in-detail breakdown of this tragedy, we now cross over to Krishan Devasagayam. Where do we have Krishan?
Well, thank you, Viara and Jayamal. Well, indeed, it was a very devastating and sudden tragedy that took place earlier today in Nepal and Tibet. Now, as you can see, distressing scenes unfolded along the Nepal-Tibet border. The top half is the country of Tibet and the bottom half is Nepal. And this is where the epicenter of the 4.4 magnitude earthquake that struck earlier today. So, earlier today, as a flash flood swept through a stretch along this border. The floods hit multiple settlements on the mountainous district of Rasua, situated just north of Nepal's capital of Kathmandu. A helicopter pilot who witnessed the deadly flash flood from the air near the Tibet-Nepal border said he estimated the waves to be as high as 5 to 6 meters. Now, across the border, Tibet reported major casualties, with people missing in the neighboring country of Giryong. The Nepalese army said that search operations are underway on both sides of the border and that 88 people have been rescued so far. Now, just to show you the magnitude of the disaster, here is a look at before and after pictures of the same location just a few days apart. Now, what you can see on your screen is the surroundings of the Trishuli Ganga river just 3 days apart. The visuals on the top half of your screen is satellite imagery that was taken on the 23rd of August, while the visuals on the bottom half are satellite imagery that was taken in the aftermath of today's disaster. So, what was the cause of this sudden flooding? Although it has not been made immediately clear, initial reports suggest an earthquake triggered an avalanche of ice and rock on the Lendekola River in Nepal, causing the floods. The river runs through both Nepal and Tibet. Now, the German Research Center for Geosciences said there was a 4.4 magnitude quake approximately 7 minutes before the time shown on security footage which captured people fleeing the border. Here's more on this still developing story.
Houses, roads, bridges and power projects were swept away in Nepal, while Tibet also noting severe casualties. Officials said 384 tourists, including 291 from countries including India, the United States, the United Kingdom and Malaysia were reported missing. However, Sri Lanka's Ministry of Foreign Affairs confirmed that there have been no reports so far of any Sri Lankan tourists being affected by the incident. The Nepal police said a total of 22 bodies had been recovered at the time of writing as authorities continue rescue and recovery efforts. The Nepal Army said 14 helicopters and disaster response teams have been deployed for rescue and relief. However, rescue helicopters could not land in Nepal's affected areas with a population of about 50,000, with the river flowing above its normal course.
Guys, यस्तो लाइभ छ ओहो पुरा ड्याम फुटेर आयो यार त्रिशुली बजारै गयो यार ल गयो यार त्रिशुली ओ एकछिन यता आऊ यता
Television broadcast images of crumbled homes in the flood waters, floating cars and a metal bridge being washed away, while witnesses told Reuters the waters engulfed entire villages. Several areas of the Bothe Koshi River, which flows from Tibet to Nepal, are on high alert, and roads, communications and power in the region have been disrupted. The authorities say the main road to Kathmandu is also closed. Nepal's energy ministry said 430 megawatts of electricity supplies were affected, mostly from hydroelectric projects. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered an all-out search and rescue effort and called for strengthening monitoring and early warning systems to prevent secondary disasters. An Indian official announced that India's Bihar state had begun evacuating from 6 districts as they feared the floods would reach those areas. In a post on X, Sri Lanka's President Anil Kumar Dissanayake has noted that he is deeply saddened by the devastating floods and landslides. He has shared his heartfelt sympathy for all those affected, including families and communities who fell victim to the tragedy. He ends saying, quote, "Sri Lanka stands in solidarity with the government and people of Nepal at this difficult time."
The birth of Prophet Muhammad, also known as Milad-un-Nabi, falls today.
Prophet Muhammad was born on this day in Rabi al-Awwal, the 3rd month of the Islamic lunar calendar.
Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who propagated the message of love and peace for all humanity, is recognized as the final messenger of Allah. Prophet Muhammad was born in the city of Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 570, common unity. Parallel to the event, a number of social service programs were conducted, including a blood donation camp, a tree planting program, a cultural program and a special exhibition based on the life philosophy of the Prophet.
President Anil Kumar Dissanayake stressed that the proposed 22nd constitutional amendment is being introduced solely to ensure justice for the people. The president further emphasized that his government will not take any decision that is detrimental to the public. He made these remarks while addressing the national Milad-un-Nabi event.
I act with unwavering faith in the strength and power of the people of this country. I ensure that neither I nor my government will take any decision or action that causes even the slightest injustice or harm to the people of this nation. No injustice will be allowed to occur. I am aware that there is considerable debate and that attempts are being made to create controversy regarding the new constitutional amendment. The purpose of this amendment is entirely focused on expediting the process of delivering justice to our people and improving society through a stronger and more effective justice system. I assure you that none of these measures will cause any harm to the general public. There will be absolutely no injustice. This amendment is intended to strengthen public confidence in the legal system and provide the speed necessary to ensure justice is delivered promptly. If a case filed in 2006 receives a judgment only in 2026, or if a case filed in 2017 has gone 9 years without even a single witness being heard, how can people maintain confidence in justice? Such confidence cannot exist under those circumstances. That is why this process must be accelerated. Regardless of the minor opposition or criticism that may arise, I assure you that no decision taken on behalf of the people will be reversed. It will not be reversed. Remember this, before any decision is made, we carefully consider the possible advantages and disadvantages as well as all external factors. We examine every aspect and every dimension before arriving at a decision. But once a decision has been taken, it will not be reversed. At the same time, if there are shortcomings in any decision we make, we will never hesitate to correct them. This is a government that listens to the voice of the people at all times.
Addressing a joint media briefing today, the lawyers for public mandate questioned why the Bar Association of Sri Lanka has not yet intervened on the insults hurled against the current Chief Justice and the entire judiciary under the guise of parliamentary privileges.
The lawyers for public mandate hosted a joint media briefing in Colombo today.
Understanding Order 82 of Parliament, discussions regarding any judge from any court is prohibited. However, as you know, a member of Parliament from the Matale district has made a very disgraceful statement in Parliament regarding the Chief Justice concerning various matters published about him on various websites. No one can approve of this because no action is currently being taken regarding this. The general public of the country is raising questions about the judicial system and the country's entire administrative structure. We all state that reviling the Chief Justice of the country and making completely false statements against him is entirely wrong. At this time, the leader of the opposition should be in Parliament. He shouldn't just blindly say yes sir to every word spoken by the MPs under him. If wrong things are being said, he should oppose them. However, to our misfortune, the opposition leader today hasn't said a single word about this harsh, defamatory statement made by Rohini Kaviratna. He is approving it. There is a saying, a person who ignores reality and chooses to spread lies acts out of self-deception rather than simple ignorance. However, one who sees the truth and deliberately calls it falsehood is a dangerous criminal. This has fallen into that category. So this is a very serious situation. This is precisely how the sovereignty of the judiciary is lost. Nothing else.
මෙන්න මේ ගණේට වැරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේක ඉතා දරුණු තත්ත්වයක්. මෙන්න මේක තමයි අධිකරණ ස්වාධීනත්වය නැති වෙන්නේ. වෙන මොකක්වත් නෙමෙයි. අධිකරණයට විතරක් නෙවෙයි. අධිකරණ නිලධාරීන්ගේ
It is not just the judiciary. They have now reached the point of insulting judicial officers as well as their children, wives and relatives at home who have no connection to the court. Now, there is something in this country called the Bar Association. One of the core mandates of the Bar Association is to protect the independence of the judiciary. So can't they see the personal blame, insults, ridicule and very low-based defamation being directed at the judges of our current highest court? Do they not realize that this is an obstacle to the judiciary and judicial independence? Regarding statements made about the Chief Justice, people are making various allegations about his date of birth. There is no issue with that. The second matter concerns his children. He has 2 children. They are 2 sons. One more thing. Now there is a story going around that an apartment was bought for $500,000. Within our limits, we conducted an inquiry regarding that. No such thing as claimed has ever taken place. If any party or group has an issue regarding this, relevant institutions exist. There is the Bribery Commission, the FCID, the Fraud Investigation Bureau. Anyone can go to any such place and lodge a complaint.
Meanwhile, activist Oshala Herath has called on the Bar Association of Sri Lanka to intervene to protect the independence and dignity of the judiciary amid allegations targeting the Chief Justice and the judiciary over the 22nd constitutional amendment. He made this request in a letter addressed to the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Attorney at Law Rajiv Amarasuriya. In the letter, Herath stressed that by virtue of their constitutional oath and long-standing judicial convention, the Chief Justice and sitting judges are precluded from entering public debates or responding to press inquiries and refuting speculation on social platforms. However, he iterated that such judicial silence should not be an admission of culpability. He further pointed out that to impute political motives or personal bias to the Chief Justice over government-sponsored legislation is baseless, unfair and profoundly damaging to institutional credibility. He added that as multiple petitions concerning the constitutionality of the 22nd Amendment are currently being heard before the Supreme Court. Smear campaigns targeting judges pose a threat to the independence of the judiciary. Perahera urged the Bar Association of Sri Lanka to intervene to reaffirm public confidence in the judicial process and the constitutional determination of pending bills, cautioned the public and media against publishing speculative, unsubstantiated allegations targeting judicial officers who cannot publicly defend themselves, and reassert that institutional opposition to any legislative enactment must adhere to established legal mechanisms without eroding the dignity, independence and reputation of the judiciary.
These are the views expressed by National People's Power Member of Parliament Kanchana Velipitiya regarding fraud and corruption allegations being uncovered by parliamentary committees.
The Committee on Public Enterprises is currently reviewing the audit report. According to that audit report, former UNP Member of Parliament of Ampara, Daya Gamage, who was also a minister, he had allegedly obtained 974 million rupees from funds allocated by the National Housing Development Authority for low-interest housing loans to low-income families. The funds were intended to help poor families build or improve their homes, but the allegation is that the money was instead used for business purposes and has not been repaid. How can we develop this country under such circumstances? Can we really call this a developing country when things like this happen? This country can never be developed if people like that remain in power. The government began its administration with a commitment to address such issues. However, some groups are unsettled by the sacrifices being made by our administration. That is why some people are now becoming unsettled. Because the sacrifices we are making are sacrifices that none of them can make. It has been 1 year and 9 months since we took office. We still have another 3 years and 3 months remaining in our term. After we spend these 3 years and 3 months working for the country, do you really think there will be any room for those former rulers to return? Can anyone make the sacrifices that we are making? They cannot.
This August 28th and 29th, Hikkaduwa Turtle Beach comes alive with Coral Catch Festival. Feel the ocean, energy and electrifying EDM as Sri Lanka's leading artists ignite the coast. Music, vibrant culture and non-stop celebration await. Entry is free.
Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, has highlighted the country's strong post-crisis trajectory, projecting economic growth close to 5% this year and reaffirming stability across monetary and external sectors.
The governor made these remarks at a special meeting of senior government officials and diplomats organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
And so far, this is the third consecutive year. Economy has been growing after the crisis. 5% the third year. Even first half we are going to see close to 5% growth, and then second half also we will see close to a little bit below because of the Middle Eastern crisis impact on the prices and the economy, but still will be growing very close to the trend of close to between 4 to 5% at least this year, and then we will are looking at next year coming back to the same overall trend. And obviously with all the reforms we are going to see some capacity expansion for the economy to grow faster and show the strength and the resilience. Now, with the proactive monetary policy actions Central Bank has taken recently, we are very confident inflation will come back to our target range of 5% sooner, at least by next year or towards first half of next year. Inflation will come down to normal level of 5% going forward. Then we can maintain there going forward. Now we are now recovering back. And now current account is now turning into a surplus again in second half of this year.
The governor also expressed his views on the country's debt restructuring.
So debt restructuring, as you all know, is support of all the partners, multilateral partners, bilateral partners and all commercial markets. We have been able to restructure our debt service obligations for next 10 years. This is where I can assure you that our debt service obligations, we will be able to meet our debt service obligation, all external and internal, without an issue for next 10 years. with the restructured debt obligations, obviously if you look at per capita incomes, highest per 5,000 US dollar per capita, that we are now recording highest levels we had earlier. Size of the economy now recovered much, almost same levels before the level that we had before the crisis. So basically nice recovery within a very short period. That has been recognized as one of the countries in the world where the country had been going through a serious economic balance of payment and debt crisis, and the fastest recovery, that's kind of a case study that international agencies and investors are basically looking at Sri Lanka as example of how we have been able to recover faster, much more stable, resilience and sustainable levels. So let me stop here. I'm happy to answer any questions if any of you have. Thank you very much.
Weather first.
Sri Lanka is seeing contrasting weather conditions with several areas facing dry weather and drought concerns, while showers are expected in other parts of the island.
Krishan Devasugayam brings us more. Krishan?
Thank you once again. Well, yes, certainly. While some parts of the country continue to experience severe dry weather, increased rainfall is forecast in certain other areas. Now, the Department of Meteorology says that showers will occur at times, as you can see in the blue areas on this map, in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces, as well as in the districts of Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara. Well, fairly heavy showers, about 75 millimeters, are likely at some places, and strong winds ranging from 40 to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and northwestern provinces, as well as in the districts of Trincomalee, Munaragala, Hambantota and Matale. Meanwhile, the possible development of an El Niño condition could bring further uncertainty to the country's weather patterns. The number of people affected by the ongoing El Niño conditions has now risen to 84,545. The Disaster Management Center says that people in 7 districts have been affected by the prevailing El Niño conditions.
The Munaragala district has recorded the highest number of people affected by the prevailing El Niño conditions, with 11,074 people affected. The Disaster Management Center said 9,547 people in Batticaloa and 2,823 people in Ampara have also been affected by the prevailing dry weather. Water shortages have meanwhile been reported in several divisional secretariat divisions in Badulla, Polonnaruwa, Hambantota and Ratnapura. The Disaster Management Center said steps have been taken to provide drinking water to 75,734 people affected by the dry conditions. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology said the heat index, or the temperature felt by the human body, is at a level requiring attention today in the eastern province as well as in the Polonnaruwa, Jaffna, Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu and Munaragala. This is the situation at Rambavava in Madaragiriya amid the prevailing El Niño conditions. The area has received little to no rainfall for around 4 months, leaving both residents and wildlife struggling with the severe shortage of water. Several small tanks in Mihinthale are also drying up due to the prolonged dry weather. The declining water levels in these tanks have severely affected agricultural activities and dairy cattle farming in the area. Meanwhile, Minister of Housing, Construction and Water Supply Sosil Ranasinghe says preparations are underway to manage the potential impact of the prevailing El Niño conditions.
We have forecast that there could be issues with water availability and water sources. Several mechanisms are already in place to face this situation, including a disaster management mechanism. In addition, the Cabinet has established a Cabinet subcommittee to respond to the El Niño conditions and minimize their impact. There is also a mechanism under the National Council for Disaster Management that is activated when a disaster is declared. This mechanism is initiated under the leadership of the President.
Meanwhile, while water sources in several areas are drying up due to the prolonged dry spell, reservoirs in other parts of the country are nearing spill levels.
So as you can see, certain parts of the country are forecast for heavy rain, while some others are suffering with dry weather. So as these climate changes and a possible El Niño event could pose significant risks to Sri Lanka's economic stability, CEO of Advocata Institute, Dhananath Fernando, warned that floods or prolonged droughts could severely reduce hydropower generation, increasing the reliance on costly thermal power and fuel imports, while also putting pressure on electricity prices and the economy. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
So generally, when there are even the climate shocks on the economy, it can later on translate into a broader economic and a political crisis. So even in this case, if there's a longer term drought, then again it can affect the agriculture. There's about 24 to 25% labor force is engaged in agriculture, and they contribute about 8% to our GDP. At the same time, in terms of our energy generation mix, power generation mix, there were times that about 70% of the energy was contributed by renewable energy, majorly contributed by hydro. So if there's a drought, then we can have a situation where we have to slowly shift towards more thermal bases. So as a result, we will have higher fuel imports and higher electricity prices, which will affect the entire economy if it converts to a drought. At the same time, with that, there can be pressure on the currency, and then it can kind of escalate into the rest of the other issues with high cost of living, so on and so forth. So that's what could happen if El Nino hits. But again, we really don't know. The challenge is again for farmers to cultivate now or cultivate later. We really don't know, because we really cannot predict what is going to happen. There's this Indian bipolar situation that can also happen. If that's the case, the El Nino can be kind of at the same time neutralized. That is what happened about 3-4 years ago. We were supposed to get an El Nino, but it didn't really come because of the Indian bipolar, another sort of environment, another climate matter, which kind of neutralizes the El Nino effect. At the same time, the same thing can actually intensify the El Nino impact as well. So we really don't know what would happen. One only thing that we can do is hope that this won't affect Sri Lanka severely. So that's the overall impact on El Nino, and later on, if it affects agriculture exchange rate, that could also translate into debt sustainability, so on and so forth. So that's the context on El Nino and how it could affect the economy.
Weather first.
Wonder of the global theatre brought to Sri Lanka for the 12th time. Colombo International Theatre Festival 2026. 17 countries, 31 plays, 1 universal stage. August 22nd to the 27th from 6:30 p.m. at the Elphinstone Theatre, Maradana. Reserve your tickets now. Organised by the Interact Art Theatre Institute. Welcome back to the news, and we follow on with more news. Almost everyone travelling to and from Colombo relies on the Colombo Central bus stand for their transportation needs. But how safe is the newly renovated bus stand? Considering some of the incidents we have heard about and witnessed in recent days, we decided to look into the matter.
At the heart of Colombo's bustling transport network, Peta Central Bus Stand welcomes thousands of commuters every single day. It is one of the busiest places in the country. Having undergone renovation recently, how about the security of those who visit here? And what happens to those who commit mistakes in this place? We are here to find out more today.
Do you remember this theft that took place at the Colombo Central bus stand on the 24th of August? How did the security officers act swiftly and manage to apprehend the person responsible for the theft? Look closely at this incident that unfolded in just a matter of seconds. Security officers immediately sprang into action and rushed to the scene. How were all of these operations carried out so swiftly? The response also drew attention on social media, where their quick action was widely praised. This is how it works. The Colombo Fort Central bus stand now operates a state-of-the-art CCTV surveillance system 24 hours a day. The system operates under the full supervision of the Sri Lanka Air Force and consists of 64 modern CCTV cameras. Where does something go wrong? Who is responsible? For the safety of the thousands of people who pass through the central bus stand every day, this CCTV surveillance system remains on alert 24 hours a day.
මේ වෙනකොට ඔක්කොම සිද්ධීන් 1296ක වගේ ප්‍රමාණයක් මේ මොනිටර් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් ඔයාලට කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැතුව බයක් නැතුව මේ ස්ථානට ඇවිල්ලා තමන්ගේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් ඉෂ්ට කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. පැය 24 පුරා අපි මේක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ශ්‍රී ලංකා ගුවන් හමුදාව මගින් CCTV විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපි කණ්ඩායමේ ඉන්න සියලුම කණ්ඩායම් ඒ වෙනුවෙන් යොමු කරලා ඔබගේ ආරක්ෂාව තහවුරු කරලා තියෙනවා.
In the past, some projects launched with much fanfare and handed over to the public eventually fell into neglect. But the central bus stand, which was recently opened for public use, continues to operate at 100% efficiency, serving the public to the fullest. Today, the bus stand has become a safer and more comfortable place, not only for ordinary citizens, but also for women, children and senior citizens.
Now, the officials have taken the responsibility of monitoring this place. It's not a matter of fixing cameras, but the surveillances are taking place 24/7 on all 365 days of the year. And as part of the public, it is our responsibility to also take care of this property given to us by the state. And with that, we wrap up from the central bus stand of Pedah.
The final run Dolly Perahera of the Kandy Festival is scheduled to take to the streets tomorrow night on the Nikini full moon Poya Day. A commemorative publication prepared by Sirasa TV and Newsfirst for the historic Kandy Festival was presented to the Mahanayaka Theras this morning.
Prior to the presentation of the Sirasa Namami commemorative publication to the Mahanayaka Theras, officials from the Maharaja Media Network venerated and obtained blessings from the temple of the sacred tooth relic in Kandy. The commemorative publication, which chronicles the history and significance of the sacred tooth relic, was produced on behalf of the temple of the sacred tooth relic by K. Mihigahakumbura. The commemorative publication was first presented to the most venerable Tippatuave Sri Sumangala Thera, the Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect. Chief Executive Officer of MTV Yasrat Kamalsri, Director Sirasa TV Dharmashri Bandara Ekanayaka, Manager of Promotions Newsfirst Rasika Dinesh Dharmaraja and Editor of the publication K. Mihigahakumbura along with several others attended the occasion.
සෙනගට දෙනවා. අද ඉඳලා පටන් ගන්නවා මේ. ඉතින් මේකාපුරු මහත්තයා හැම අවුරුද්දම යමක් එකතු කරනවා උතන.
The group then received blessings from the Most Venerable Varkagoda Sri Jnanaratana Thera, the Mahanayaka Thera of the Askiriya chapter of the Siam sect, and presented the commemorative publication.
අපි ඊයේත් මේ දික්වායකින් හානි වෙච්ච ගෙවල් හානි වෙච්ච අයට මේ බඩු බෙදලා දුන්නා අපේ ආමුනේ මහාන මැෂින් ඊළඟට ඔය වැල්ඩින් උපකරණ කට්ලේ ඒ සංරක්ෂියා කරගෙන යන්නේ ඉන්නෝනේ ඒගොල්ලෝගේ සේරම ගියානේ මහානයි ආමුනේ ඒ අයට මේ ඊයේ 150ක් විතර දිස්ත්‍රික් ලේකම් කාර්යාලයට ගෙනල්ලා ඒ අවශ්‍ය පහසුකම් බඩු සියල්ල බෙදලා දුන්නා දෙන්න පුළුවන් පහසුකම් අපි සියල්ල පුළුවන් විදියට අපි ගම්මැද්දෙන් දුන්නා මහානයි.
The group later called on the Anunayaka Thera of the Askiriya chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Venerue Upali Thera, obtained blessings and presented the publication. The publication was also presented to the Diyavadana Nilame Pradeep Nilangadala. Copies of the publication were also distributed among devotees at the temple of the sacred tooth relic. This virtuous initiative was generously sponsored by Vendor Lanka.
අපිට සතුටුයි මේ වගේ පොතකින් හරි අපිට දැනුමක් ලබා ගැනීමට පුළුවන්. පෙරහැර ගැන විස්තර සමාජයේ දන්නව අඩුයි. ඒක නිසා මම හිතනවා මේක මේ ඔබතුමාලා කරපු ලොකු කර්තව්‍යයක් කියලා වෙලා. විශේෂයෙන් කුඩා දරුවන්ට දළදා මාලිගාව පිළිබඳ ඉතිහාසය පිළිබඳව දැනගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද මේක තමයි මහා කාර්යයක් විදිහට මම දකිනවා මේ අවස්ථාවේ.
Meanwhile, all arrangements have been finalized for the Sirasa Poya Day program to be held throughout the day tomorrow at the Sangama Temple in Kandy in lieu of Nikini full moon Poya Day. Sri Lanka continues to experience a significant surge in tourist arrivals, and at the same time a growing number of international airlines are launching and resuming services to Sri Lanka. Today on Happy Headlines, we bring you more details about this encouraging trend.
Happy Headlines.
In just the first few weeks of August, Sri Lanka welcomed 155,331 tourist arrivals. The largest number of visitors exceeding 36,000 arrived from India. More than 16,000 travellers from the United Kingdom also visited Sri Lanka during the same period. From January to date this year, Sri Lanka has recorded a total of 1,498,749 tourist arrivals. We also look into where these visitors are choosing to travel within the country. Tourist zones in Polonnaruwa and Habarana are currently bustling with foreign visitors. Large number of tourists are exploring the historic ruins of Polonnaruwa while also visiting the region's renowned wildlife parks and nature reserves. As tourist interest in Sri Lanka continues to grow, international airlines are also showing increased interest in providing greater connectivity for travelers wishing to visit the island. One such example is the world-renowned Jetstar Airways, which resumed operations to Sri Lanka yesterday. A flight between Melbourne and Katunayake now takes approximately 10 hours. Jetstar is scheduled to operate services between Melbourne and Katunayake every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday.
This route is more than just a commercial service. This is about building a bridge between our two countries, and it's a way that we can help to continue to expand these ties that we have between our people, between our tourists, between people travelling to seek education, employment, family reunion, of course, all the deep personal connections that direct travel makes possible. And Jetstar's direct Melbourne to Colombo service opens a new story, a new chapter in this story of connection between our two countries. Australia's welcomed this expansion of air links with direct services that will, we know, boost tourism. They will boost business engagement, and most importantly, they will boost the people-to-people connections between our two countries. For Australians, we know Sri Lanka as one of the Indian Ocean's most attractive destinations. This is a country with a rich culture, with stunning landscapes, with warm hospitality and with remarkable resilience. That Australia is home to a vibrant and successful Australia-Sri Lanka diaspora, a community that's made an enormous contribution to Australia and maintains very important links to this country as well. We know that hundreds of thousands of Australians trace their heritage to this country, and this link that this airline represents today is going to help draw those families and those communities closer together. These links will create new opportunities for tourism, for exporters and investors. It will support educational exchanges, giving people new opportunity in every walk of life. These are the connections that form the foundation of a very successful bilateral partnership.
The growing number of international airlines choosing to operate services to Sri Lanka is one of the clearest indicators of the strong global demand for the country as a travel destination. It is yet another positive sign that Sri Lanka continues to strengthen its position on the world tourism map.
Dolly Parton, the queen of country music, a Hollywood star and a beloved American icon, has died at the age of 80.
Tinal Tilakaratna brings us the details from the Newsfirst International Desk.
Thank you, Jamal and Vera. Now, Dolly Parton, the legendary country music artist known for her singing, her philanthropy, branding and business acumen, has died at the age of 80. Her death was announced by her nephew Brian Saber on social media. Parton's team later confirmed the singer died yesterday after fighting a brief battle with cancer.
Now this is a true story for those of you that don't know.
Born on the 19th of January 1946, Parton was the fourth of 12 children. Her career was forever influenced by her upbringing as one of the 12 children born into what she called, quote-unquote, a dirt-poor Tennessee family. Parton wrote hundreds of songs, including classics like Jolene, Coat of Many Colors and I Will Always Love You. that totaled more than 100 million worldwide sales and more than 1 billion online streams. Parton sold over 100 million records and won 11 Grammy Awards, making her one of the best-selling musical performers of all time. As word of Parton's death spread, the tributes began pouring in. US President Donald Trump ordered US flags lowered to half-staff nationwide for 1 week, while the entertainment world's biggest stars weighed in with condolences. According to TMZ, a small funeral ceremony is being planned in Nashville in the coming days, with Parton's closest friends and loved ones gathering to pay tribute to her life and legacy.
Joys of war, and then she said...
The Canadian government said it would impose tariffs on 27.6 billion Canadian dollars worth of US goods, matching the new US duties that Trump imposed dollar for dollar. It also announced a new plan for financial support for businesses caught in the trade war, as the move is expected to put further pressure on businesses and cross-border trade between the two countries.
Canada has announced counter tariffs as high as 50% on a range of US goods in retaliation to the latest wave of levies on Canadian imports imposed by US President Donald Trump last weekend. Officials announced yesterday the Canadian tariffs will apply to nearly 28 billion Canadian dollars worth of more than 700 American products and will target the steel and aluminium, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, plastics and electronics sectors. The tariffs will range from 15% to 50% and take effect on the 8th September. The Canadian government also announced a new 7.5 billion Canadian dollar funding package to help small and medium-sized businesses mitigate financial risks caused by the new tariffs. The Canadian Minister of Finance said that Canada's retaliation is in response to 50% tariffs imposed by the Trump administration on a range of Canadian goods after trade talks fell apart on Friday.
Those tariffs will have real consequences for Canadian workers, businesses, and communities across our nation. Canada must respond, and today we are, in a proportionate, targeted, and strategic way. Today I'm announcing that Canada will match the United States tariff dollar for dollar, rate for rate. Effective September 8th, Canada will impose counter tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on 27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America. For each product, our tariff would match the American tariff on the same type of Canadian good.
The new tariffs come after US President Donald Trump imposed 50% tariffs on Canadian products on last Saturday, impacting $20 billion worth of Canadian goods only days after announcing a deal. The White House, releasing a statement after Canada announced its counter tariffs, said that the US was prepared to offer Canada the most preferential market access of any country on earth in recent trade talks. The statement read, quote, "Instead of partnership, Canada chose unreasonable demands, walkbacks and flat-out rejection," unquote.
Meta has agreed to a multi-billion-dollar settlement over claims brought by several US states that its platforms harms children.
Meta Platforms agreed to pay a maximum of $16.68 billion and make major changes to Facebook and Instagram to resolve claims by states across the US that the company designed those platforms to addict children, misled consumers about their safety, and improperly collected children's personal data. The settlement resolves claims brought by 29 US states and will end a federal trial that had been one of the highest profile tests yet of allegations that social media companies harmed young users. Meta will impose daily usage limits and restrict nighttime usage by children who use Facebook and Instagram, and enhance measures to prevent children from accessing age-restricted content. Wednesday's settlement also resolves lawsuits by California, Illinois, New Mexico and Washington, D.C. over privacy claims related to the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where the consulting firm collected personal data of millions of Facebook users. Those states will receive $459.3 million to resolve those lawsuits.
In sports news, Sri Lanka's javelin sensation Rumesh Taranga has once again climbed up the ranks of the world javelin rankings.
Now Thinal is ready to bring us the details.
Yes, Sri Lanka's Ramesh Taranga has once again claimed the #1 spot in the world rankings for the men's javelin throw. Now this is according to the latest updated international rankings for the event.
Ramesh has returned to the top of the world rankings following his impressive performance at the Lausanne Diamond League Athletics meeting last week, where he won the men's javelin throw event. Ramesh currently has 1,363 points, while Germany's Julian Weber is placed second with 1,342 points. Ramesh is also scheduled to compete in the 2026 Zurich Diamond League Athletics meet, which will be held in Switzerland from tomorrow night through to the early hours of the following morning.
The second test match between Sri Lanka and India continued for the fourth day today at the SSE grounds in Colombo. Now, as storms were called on, rain affected on day 4, Sri Lanka batted again to avoid an innings defeat with 229 runs for 6 wickets. Now, Sri Lanka therefore leads by 16 runs.
Batting first, India declared their innings at 503 runs for 9 wickets. When play resumed today, Sri Lanka were 265 for 8 in their first innings reply. Sonal Thinusha, who also scored a century in the first test, brought up his second test century today. Sri Lanka needed to score 303 runs to avoid being asked to bat again. However, Sri Lanka were bowled out for 290 runs. Sri Lanka then came out to bat again to avoid an innings defeat, but Lahiru Udara was dismissed for 3 runs. Kamil Mishara and Pasindu Surya Bandara put on 58 runs for the second wicket. Pasindu Surya Bandara and Kamindu Mendes then built a 115-run partnership for the third wicket. Surya Bandara, who also scored a half-century in Sri Lanka's first innings, scored his second test half-century today. Kamindu Mendes scored 55 runs, bringing up his 7th test half-century. Captain Dhananjay De Silva scored 23 runs. Pasindu Surya Bandara was dismissed for 92 runs with his innings, including 10 fours and a 6. Niroshan Dikwala scored 6 runs.
Starting tomorrow on the Newsfirst main news bulletin through beautiful Sri Lanka, we are giving a special opportunity to the young minds who will shape the future of our nation.
That's right. And all it takes is one simple step. If you are under the age of 16, all you have to do is draw one of Sri Lanka's most beautiful, unique and world-famous locations that you believe deserves to be showcased to the world. Whether it's an ancient heritage site, a breathtaking natural wonder, a stunning beach, a majestic mountain, a wildlife paradise, or a place that makes you rather proud to call Sri Lanka home, bring it to life through your creativity and imagination.
Then send your artwork to us via WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is 071 241 4444. That's 071 241 4444. From all the drawings we receive, we will select the most outstanding artwork and proudly showcase it to the entire world on tomorrow's Newsfirst main news bulletin.
So pick up your pencils, brushes, crayons and colors. Let your imagination soar and show us the Sri Lanka you love. Beautiful Sri Lanka begins tomorrow, and your masterpiece could be the one that inspires the world.
And with that, we conclude Primetime News for tonight. Thank you very much for joining.
Good night.